Good evening, everyone. The Mistress here with a story. My sleep paralysis has taken a terrifying new turn. Written by Bellatrix 313. Part 1. I've been awake now for almost 60 hours, and I know I'm not going to last much longer. I'm so scared to sleep, or more accurately, I'm terrified of waking up once I go to sleep. I have insomnia, and occasionally I also experience this weird phenomenon called hypnopompic hallucinations. When I'm starting to wake up, like in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, I will see things that aren't really there. Mostly I see spiders crawling on the walls. The first couple of times it seemed so real that I jumped out of bed and began hitting at the walls with a shoe. When I couldn't find the spiders, I would search for them, making sure they weren't in the bed or on the floor. It was terrifying. After a while, of course, I accepted the fact that they weren't real. It was just my brain tricking me as I awoke from a deep slumber. It still seemed as real as ever, and I still sometimes reacted by jumping to my feet in horror, but I also began to calm down quite a bit faster, until I developed sleep paralysis. Sleep paralysis is a phenomenon during which you believe yourself to be fully awake, something is happening that scares you, and you find that you can't move your body. You are completely out of control. Combine the sleep paralysis with hypnopompic hallucinations, and you get next level fear. I now see spiders crawling towards me, swinging above my head on strands of web, and I can't move. My husband has gotten used to calling me once I fully awaken and can move again. It usually involves waking him up, blubbering, tears, and up to an hour of cuddling and whispered assurances before we are both able to get back to sleep. Recently, though, things have gotten so much worse. I'll start with what happened about a week ago. My husband was out of town for work, and I fell asleep in the living room. My cat, Cheshire, was snoozing next to me on my pillow, and my dog, Sirius, was laying on the floor next to the sofa. I woke-ish and immediately saw what appeared to be a large wasp buzzing around my head. I couldn't move any part of my body or even shout, and the worst part was, I couldn't even close my eyes. As a buzzing sound began, I realized the wasp had been quiet before, and realized I was most likely hallucinating. The realization must have snapped my brain fully awake, and the wasp disappeared before my eyes. The buzzing, however, continued. Believing myself to be fully awake now, and finding my body responding to commands for movement, I began to sit up, and blinked the sleep from my eyes. Halfway to a sitting position, I froze again. There was a figure standing at the foot of the couch. It was nearly pitch black except for the glow from a small nightlight on the other side of the room, so I couldn't make out features. But I knew that Caleb was out of town. The figure wasn't moving a muscle, and other than the unidentified buzzing sound, I heard nothing. No breathing, no rustling as if from a slight shift of movement. He was as still as a statue. I decided I wasn't fully awake yet, and I needed to be proactive before these hallucinations got completely out of hand. So I spoke to it. "Hello?" My voice wasn't as strong and sure as I'd hoped, but I was proud of myself for facing my fears head on. The figure raised his head, and I knew that it was meeting my eyes. The buzzing sound cut off abruptly. My heart raced, and I felt the blood drain from my face. I blinked, and the figure's face was an inch from mine. Cheshire shrieked and ran off. I had no breath to scream. My eyes were locked in its dark gaze. Coal black eyes filled my vision, and I felt as if there were no good left in the world. A thick blanket of depression smothered my fear and left me wanting to die. I smelled his stale breath and felt his chest rise with it against my own. His knees were on the floor next to the couch, about where my dog had been, and I wondered in the back of my brain why he wasn't howling. He never blinked. It must have only lasted 10 or 15 seconds, but it was also a lifetime. I never blinked either. The paralysis was back with a vengeance. He spoke 3 words in a deep, gravelly voice. "Time is short." I blinked then, involuntarily, and he was gone. My dog was dead. He lay right where the dark visitor, as I had started to think of him, had been. I cried, inconsolably for hours before taking him to be cremated. I have been visited at each waking since that night by the same figure. It doesn't matter if it's night or morning, he speaks the same words of warning each time. They are a threat. I haven't told my husband, as there's nothing he can do from out of town anyway. He won't believe it's real and will only suggest I go to see a doctor. Currently, I'm at a hotel. I know it won't stop my visitor from appearing, but it's worth a try, and at least my cat will be safe. I want to ask it questions. What does it mean that time is short? Is it talking about my time? The time of someone I love? Is it a warning I can react to? If so, why does it feel so utterly threatening? However, so far, I have been paralyzed each time. At this point, I keep nearly dozing off while I write this, but I wanted an account out there in case one of these times it kills me. If I'm still alive after the next waking, I'll report back what has happened. For now, good night, or morning, whatever. I'm so tired, I don't even know anymore. Cross your fingers for me, please. Part 2. When I finally passed out yesterday, I slept like the dead. I didn't wake until about 12 hours later, which of course means I slept all day and was wide awake for the night. Maybe it's better that way, though. When I awoke, I experienced the normal first wave of insectile intruders, but it was much more intense than it had ever been before. I awoke facing the wall and immediately saw a hole the size of my head beginning to dissolve through the drywall. An explosion of centipedes erupted from it. So many I thought they would completely cover the wall in front of me with their brownish, yellow, squirmy bodies, sharp, tiny fangs, and hundreds of feet tip-tapping on the paint. I could feel the gorge rising in my throat and prayed that the paralysis would release me before I vomited and choked. I was also, of course, waiting to turn my head so I could see the dark visitor and get wave 2 over with as soon as possible. I was positive he was waiting silently at the end of the bed. As the last of the centipedes scurried away and vanished, I saw something else begin to come out of the hole. Before long, I recognized fingertips and stared, frozen and horrified, as my dark visitor pulled his head out from the wall and his hands shot out lightning quick to grab my face. He had never touched me so directly before. I had felt pressure as he leaned against me to get closer to my face, but this grabbing was completely new. He pulled our faces to within a centimeter of each other. His eyes were as black and depthless as ever, even in the fading daylight. He seemed to carry with him a blanket of night, shutting out the sun and smothering any artificial light in the room as well. When he grabbed my face, I felt the paralysis break. I knew this may be my only chance to communicate with him. Before he could get out the 3 words I dreaded hearing, "Time is short," and disappear again, I shouted out at him, "Time is short for who? What do you want from me?" "Everyone you love," he breathed out in his gravelly voice. I silently chastised myself for asking 2 questions at once. Is time short for everyone I love, or does he want them from me? Maybe both. "Why me?" I whimpered. "Why them?" He laughed, his breath enough to nearly make me pass out. "Why?" he began. "Not!" He screamed so loud in my face, I felt it in my toes. Everything felt cold then, and I briefly wondered if I was actually frozen in addition to psychologically frozen. He released my face, and I realized I didn't ask who was in danger first. Was it one at a time, and my dog had gone first? Would everyone run out of time at once? I didn't have enough information. The hole swallowed him up, and light and warmth returned to the hotel room. I was violently sick the moment I moved. I didn't even make it to the bathroom. I decided it was time to see a priest. Since I'd slept so long, I knew I could stay awake for a good long while now. I hurried to the nearest Catholic church I could find and prayed a priest would still be available at this late afternoon hour. It was now after 6:00 p.m., dinner time, and I wasn't sure I'd even be able to get in the doors. Luckily, they opened right up for me, and I saw a priest nearly as soon as I'd walked in. I must have looked upset or given off an air of anxiety, because the priest nearly bogged down the aisle to get to my side and usher me in and to a seat. "Are you all right, miss?" he asked. "No," I answered honestly. "Not even a little bit." I proceeded to explain everything to him, not looking at his face because I didn't want to see the disbelief. I needn't have worried, astonishingly. He believed every word, and said that he knew as soon as he saw me because I bore the mark of the beast. I had no idea what that meant, and though he tried to show me the mark he said was on my forehead, I was unable to see it. He explained it may be only visible to others and possibly only to believers on both sides. "I fear this means you have been touched by a demon," he stayed nervously. "Would you be willing to sleep here so that I could see if what you see is visible only to you or to others as well?" "Yes," I said in relief. I was more than happy to have someone with me who also believed me. He may not be able to do anything, but at least I wasn't alone. "Now, I may not see anything, or you may not be visited at all while you are in the church. I must ask, have you been baptized?" he asked cautiously. "Yes, I was raised Protestant and was saved and baptized as a young teenager," I explained. He breathed a sigh of relief. "That's good. It means the mark and the demon won't hold as much power over you as it could over someone that does not know God. I think this has saved you from possession." Father Nathan, as I learned he was called, fed me dinner and we talked for a couple of hours. I decided to try and sleep again even though I'd slept so much earlier. Both of us were anxious to test out Father Nathan's theories. Before I got comfortable in the couch in the church's visitors' lounge, I tried to call my husband. It was now the 3rd time I'd left a voicemail in the last couple days, and I hadn't received any return calls. It was making me worried for him. I knew he was very busy on his out-of-town work trips, but he usually made an effort to call me at least once a day. "Hi, Caleb, it's Mallory again. Please call me back when you get the message. I haven't heard from you in days and I'm concerned. I love you." I pressed the end button and lay down. Father Nathan was going to keep vigil at a desk across the room so he could be here whenever I awoke, and everything started happening. I was actually excited that maybe I'd discover some answers this time. I awoke free and clear from hallucinations, paralysis, and demons about 3 hours later. Figuring Father Nathan had been right about the church keeping the dark visitor at bay, I decided I would be camping out here for the foreseeable future. Then I saw him. He was still sitting in the chair behind the desk across the room from me. His eyes were wide open and unblinking. His entire body had been burned to a charred crisp. Nothing surrounding him had been touched. It was as if he had spontaneously combusted. I choked back a sob. Father Nathan had tried to help me, and now he was dead. He hadn't been a loved one, but I was sure he had been a warning. Those who help me don't have a chance. I'm completely on my own. At least I can still communicate safely online. It makes me feel a little bit better. I'm now going to avoid people altogether except posting on this subreddit. If anyone who tried to help me with suggestions last time is still alive, please let me know, so I know this is safe for everyone. Once again, thank you for listening to this story with me. Keep a lookout for more to this story. Have a good night, everyone. Love, the Mistress.